California has an infinite number of issues and problems that need to be addressed. One of these being that California is hemorrhaging its citizens in significant numbers. In 2019, more than 500,000 Californians moved to Texas alone. California is not just losing people, it is also losing businesses. California has one of the highest state income taxes in the US, while Texas has no state income tax at all. Elon Musk is not the only person threatening to leave California. Dissatisfied residents have left in a minor exodus in recent years. The complaints about California and talk of an exodus from it are not new. COVID-19 was the straw that broke the camel's back. Its effect on commerce have created a perfect storm to bring them to the fore, at least for those among who already had inclinations. So what is wrong with California? These are some issues why California is in trouble. The lockdown is still in place, the homelessness is out of control, it's overpopulated, high taxes, excessive regulations on business, high cost of living, and out of control housing market. 54% of San Francisco storefronts have closed since the pandemic. Thousands have left San Francisco permanently. The homeless are more entrenched now than ever. The once great city of San Francisco has fallen to decades of liberal policies run amok. Businesses leaving, jobs disappearing, and taxpayers fleeing. Meanwhile, the city is in ruins while the mayor and board of supervisors continue paying public employees to lavish compensation packages as if nothing changed or will change. Nobody is immune to the laws of economics. At least 4 decades of theft, mismanagement, and abuse of power have helped to bring down what was once one of the greatest states in the USA. California overall has 340,000 public employees with $100,000 plus paychecks which cost taxpayers $45 billion. Governor Gavin Newsom didn't take a promised pay cut after slashing state workers' wages. Hollywood's apocalypse now, rich and famous are fleeing in droves as liberal politics and coronavirus turn city of dreams into cesspit plagued by junkies and violent criminals. San Francisco businesses are closing, and others are going remote at 50% or higher. I think you'll see this trend in every major high-tax crime US city. COVID is going to forever change the way we work, and therefore, the way we live. Why would somebody stay in San Francisco for a $5,000 a month studio with no parking while their car is being destroyed on the streets, stepping around homeless, poop, urine, needles with idiot politicians who only perpetuate the problems? Additional reasons for leaving: homelessness, crime, filth, property taxes, business taxes and regulations, endless delay getting permits to make improvements to your home, rent control laws that make it prudent to sell your home instead of renting it out, ever-increasing risk of getting fined or sued for non-compliance with constantly changing laws favoring some group or other, corrupt and incompetent officials, the tent cities that won't be contained, the open sewers for streets, the legalization of shoplifting and car break-ins, and the open drug use and dealing and prostitution combined to make a very inferior quality of life, etc., etc. The pandemic was the spark that lit this gas explosion. This city is an absolute disaster. Sad to see the deterioration of what once was the Monte Carlo of the US. Many of our great cities are in the same shape. I blame this solely on the politicians that manufactured this toxic mix of elevating the homeless as the most important group while providing unrelenting support to decriminalize all crime. San Francisco is on its way to becoming filthier, poorer, and less safe than Detroit ever was. Because of the pandemic and endless civil unrest, the official unemployment rate in Los Angeles is now hovering near 20%. California is projecting a $54.3 billion deficit, a landmark shortfall due to the COVID-19 crisis that will reverberate through state budgets for years to come. Revenue projections are dire: a $9.7 billion drop for this year's budget, and a $32.2 billion projected to decline for the 2020-21 fiscal year. The 2020 forecast for total wages and salaries is projecting a decline 4 times greater than during the Great Recession. Without federal help, budget experts say California will need to consider major cuts to areas such as K-12 schools and funding for county governments, which rely heavily on state dollars for health programs. Welcome back to the Atlantis Report. You are here for your daily dose of the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Please take a second to smash that like button. And as you know friends, I rely on your donations to keep this channel functional. As you know, it takes a crazy amount of research and time to bring you this content on a daily basis, so I hope you consider helping with whatever donation you can afford. Thank you. California has been on fire for so many years. I'm surprised there's anything left to burn. Thousands of acres of redwood trees, with some dating over 1,000 years, are being destroyed due to a lack of forest management. 1 million acres of forests being incinerated in only a few short days. Much of California has been forest fire prone for many years and has suffered massive fire losses before. Anywhere on the west coast of America is not a safe place to live, and especially in areas prone to fires and earthquakes. Someday, the big one is coming, and there will be no escape. I believe that all these wildfires in California, as God's warning for people to take heed and leave before that day comes. Time will tell, but no place, no matter how perfect it may seem, is worth the high risk of bodily injury and/or death, much less the very real possibility of losing everything you have ever worked for. California has the biggest economy in the US, and yet it is on the verge of bankruptcy. California is not just Hollywood, nor is it Silicon Valley. It is the state that feeds America. The second place isn't even close. In the urban and suburban parts of it, i.e., where most of California's population lives and works, it offers a toxic combination of the highest cost and the lowest quality of life anywhere in the USA unless you are in the top 1 to 2% of earners. Housing costs are among the highest in the nation for some of the lowest quality housing stock. Taxation begins with close to the highest income and property taxes in the nation. Once you factor in the taxes on gasoline and a myriad of local taxes, plus the federal ones, the effective tax rate paid by a typical middle-class California resident is only 5 to 10% less than it is in most European countries. Electricity, gas, water, and sewerage is also among the most expensive in the country. The climate is such that you need to run the air conditioning for around 3/4 of the year, and heating for the other quarter, so the cost of living and energy is high. The gotcha is that for all that money, you don't get anything close to the European quality of public services. Apart from within a 20-mile radius of downtown LA and San Francisco, public transportation is non-existent, and traffic congestion is such that commutes of 2 to 3 hours in each direction are not uncommon. As well as that, leftist politicians are actually trying to make driving more expensive and difficult in pursuit of their environmental agenda. California's public schools are among the worst performing in the nation, while at the same time, lawmakers, pandering to teachers' unions, are doing their level best to stamp out charter schools. The ticking time bomb of underfunded public sector pensions is likely to decimate what public services are left when it finally goes off. Violent crime is being encouraged, most of them short of murder have been downgraded from felonies to misdemeanors, especially if committed by illegal immigrants, and the legalization of marijuana has promoted the use of other, more dangerous drugs and created a road safety crisis in the short term while starting to build up a huge public health crisis from the long-term effects of it, which have yet to emerge. Meanwhile, the police are busily spending their time on duty arresting people for hate crime and using plastic drinking straws, and their time off duty shooting autistic kids in their local Walmart. Finally, the constant risk of wildfires, admittedly, less of a risk in the major metros, but still a significant one in suburbia, and earthquakes as another incentive to leave. So it's hardly surprising that middle-class families who are able to leave California are doing so. Those who remain are those who face significant obstacles to getting out, like commitments to extended family living nearby, or problems finding a job somewhere else. The state's government doesn't care about the middle class. They derive most of their taxable income from a tiny minority of tech and entertainment millionaires, and therefore can afford to ignore the majority and do so. Widespread election fraud, notably ballot harvesting and the registration of illegal aliens to vote, will ensure that they are unlikely to be removed from office anytime soon. Most of California's problems are caused by the one-party government, insane taxes for giveaways to non-producers, regulations that stifle innovation and initiative, and social engineering policies that ignore human nature developed over millennia. Half of California's land is owned by the federal government. There is plenty of space, but people are herded into certain areas to jack up real estate values. Then, there are the waves of illegal immigrants getting special benefits and even free food at schools. Meanwhile, much of the under-the-table money they earn isn't spent in California but sent to Mexico and other points south. Rolling blackouts? San Onofre was shut down because it wasn't needed, and crazy hysterical people got their way. After all, green energy was going to replace it. Water shortages? There's a gigantic ocean of it that can't be exploited because the companies wanting to build desalination plants might want to make a profit. Meanwhile, the cities keep building high-density housing without any plan for where the water and electricity are going to come from, all in the pursuit of more tax revenue. 54% of San Francisco storefronts have closed due to COVID-19. I used to think San Francisco was the greatest place in the world. The city has become miserable over the last 5 or 6 years. It is now the city of car breaking. You can't leave the car with anything in and have it intact. It is not a serious crime anymore. Homeless in each corner and on each street. City attract them instead of punishing for law violation. Huge taxes and cost of car insurance. The huge cost of parking, no more accessible parking around Transbay Terminal for example. Everything for BLM or LGBT but nothing for working middle-class people and traditional families with kids. Some areas are still very good, but they shrink daily and safety became a concern. You can't let kids to ride a bus or muni anymore, while it must be the norm in a safe city, and it is, in Amsterdam or Copenhagen for example. As a result of COVID, stinking public transportation, dirty metro system, drugs on every street corner, and so on. So not a surprise that people are fleeing it. This was the Atlantis Report. Please like, share, leave me a comment, subscribe. And please take some time to subscribe to my backup channels. I do upload videos there too. You'll find the links in the description box. You will also find a PayPal link if you want to make a donation. Thank you wholeheartedly to all those of you who have already donated. Stay safe and healthy, friends.